Hello, I'm Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner, and I have the privilege of serving as the Children Advocacy Alliance's Executive Director. Our mission is to bring our time, talent, and resources to improving conditions for Nevada's children in the areas of education, safety, economic well-being, and health. We are committed to being the independent voice for Nevada's children and families. With each podcast, we will look at ways our community can work together to answer a critical call to action, to provide our children with all the resources they need to make a strong start in life. Today we'll be resuming our discussion on child safety and other issues with Representative Stephen Horsford and Assemblywoman Shondra Summers-Armstrong.
And I think that we need to really reconstruct and really reframe the face of homelessness. I live near quite a few shelters in Assembly District 6. I live in an area where I see folks who are homeless all the time, but we have this idea in our mind, we have framed what we believe homelessness is.
Oh yeah, they're drug addicts, they're this, they did it to themselves. Oh yeah,
absolutely.
We hear that narrative gets played out subtly and overtly everywhere.
All the time. And I think that we need to really, really be honest. You can work every day at Starbucks. You can work at the grocery. You can even work in
two resorts, have two jobs,
and you can still be homeless. If you are couch surfing, you are homeless. If you have 2 or 3 families living in the same place because they have been displaced because of high rent, that is on the verge of homelessness.
And I think, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I mean, I go back to medical because we see over and over again that so many families are one medical crisis away from homelessness, right? So again, how do you, yes, I'm sure there are some people on the street who bad choices in drugs and everything, but even that doesn't make them deserve homelessness. You know, it just, there's no part of the system that's for them.
We have a weak social service network and system to meet the needs of people where they are when they need help, whether that's for drug and alcohol, whether that's for I call it mental wellness. All of us could use some mental health in our lives, particularly after all that we've been through over the last few years with the pandemic and other issues, trauma that has affected people, from the racial divisions and strife to the economic strain that families are under. And so again, I really commend this organization because it's a data-driven organization. That the report card that you put out every year about the status of children and where we rank. I'm pleased that in some areas we've made progress because of the investments the governor and the Nevada legislature have made under Democratic control, I might add. But the reality is we have so much further to go if we really are focused on strengthening children and communities and providing them the supports they need to be successful in life. This is not just about getting through a school year or a summer or surviving the violence around the neighborhood. This is about how we help people succeed in life. And
well, nothing happens in a vacuum, right? And I think that's where the deeper that we get into policy work, we understand that there's all these factors that, because everything y'all touch on, I'm like, well, wait, now I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about that,
Yeah, all interrelated for sure.
It is all interrelated. So I do wonder, I wanted to touch on the expanded child tax credit. So can we tie that in as a factor with the housing initiatives and things? Is that something that will supplement that in a way that addresses some of those other issues?
Well, first, let's make sure everybody knows what the child tax credit is, because unfortunately, when we did it, a lot of people started getting checks and they're like, well, what is this? Because we don't always explain what these initiatives are. So the child tax credit is just what it says, a tax credit for people, families with children. Just like big corporations and the very wealthy get tax credits, Democrats in Congress, when we passed the American Rescue Plan, decided to give families with children a tax credit. And instead of waiting to get the tax credit at the end of the year when you filed your tax return, we said we would provide an advanced payment against what you would earn per child, which on average meant people were receiving $300 a month in payments based on that child tax credit. This lifted 50% of children who qualified out of poverty. In my district alone, it was over 180,000 families with children.
That is staggering.
50%.
180,000.
And I could go down the neighborhoods of families who benefited, and this was one of many tools that we used at the beginning of the pandemic to help families stabilize. We knew that there was dislocation in the workplace. We knew some people still had to go to work, particularly women of color that are on the front lines, teachers and parents who had to adapt to virtual learning and helping their kids get through school. And so we said they are the ones who need the relief, not big corporations, not the very wealthy, but families with children. And so the problem is that we couldn't get our Republican colleagues to agree to extend this tax credit. They gave a tax cut to the very wealthy that was permanent when they were in charge, but they wouldn't extend the tax credit for children that lifted half of them out of poverty for even a couple years.
So how do you argue that?
I don't know how they argue it.
Well, no, I mean, from your perspective, right? Like, how do you argue with people? Because I think, again, it comes to reframing, right? If you're talking about homelessness, if you're talking about almost any of these issues, right? You run up against, well, we need jobs. We need this, we need that. That's what we need. So we're going to build an Amazon warehouse here or something. So that's all great, but you're impacting, nothing happens in a vacuum. So now if you're bringing in this industry and displacing, now you're not having affordable housing, now you're not having this. How do you argue to someone that only believes in a narrow economic focus? What do you say to them to make them understand these kinds of things are necessary? Because I'm not sure everybody believes in the kind of soft, focusy stuff that is important, like roots in a town, making a true community and stuff like that. So I'm always curious, how can you reframe that a little bit?
One of the things that I learned in my first session is that you cannot legislate humanity. And a person has to come to this work. They don't have to do anything. I say that and I have to always catch myself. I come to this work from the perspective that it's my job to represent the people who are in my neighborhood, my neighbors, and to listen and hear what their needs are. So when we talk about affordable housing, I'm not choosing some soft, fluffy topic to discuss because I have nothing else to do. I'm talking about what I'm hearing in my community. I'm talking about what the phone calls that I'm receiving. I'm talking about what I'm hearing in the grocery line. I'm talking about what my son, who's going to be 35 next month, Lord have mercy, is telling me that he is hearing from his peers, young people who are in their 30s, who are trying to figure out how they're going to afford, and they're working folks now, $1,500, $1,300 a month for a one-bedroom, 500 square foot apartment. These are the things that I have brought to my desire to lead and work in the community. I think that I have chosen that this is my perspective, and I'm going to move forward with it. I'm going to work my hardest to work with organizations like Children's Advocacy Alliance, who, by the way, came to an interim judiciary meeting that we had on summer eviction and brought the facts, not a glamorous picture, but the statistics. Dr. Tiffany Tyler Garner came and laid it out with the staff to show us the effects. And it's up to each individual who is a community member or a leader to choose whether or not they're going to believe the data and whether or not they're going to support policy that is going to help the community at large. We can talk all day long about what we want Nevada and Las Vegas to be. We can have a pipe dream, but it does not go anywhere without work. It doesn't go anywhere without policy that is centered on people, that is policy that is centered on children, about the needs of the community, about the work that the congressman is doing. Child credits is a prime example. People were able to buy a little extra food. I mean, that may seem like, something small to those who are high income earners.
But $300 a month can be a life or death thing for some people. That's very
good groceries. It is buying some chicken, some nice, good protein for your child at the grocery store. It is the difference between whether or not if your child gets injured playing in the yard or at a park, whether or not you can pay a little bit for that child to be seen, or whether that injury turns into sepsis and they have to spend a week in children's emergency at a local hospital. This is what we're talking about. And these are not policies that are tanking our economy. It doesn't hurt our economy to do this. This is about our heart. And if we choose as Americans to say that my brother, my neighbor is worth this, I believe we are. I believe that my neighbors are worth it, and I am supporting this type of legislation.
Well, except for that lady that has the yappy dog behind me. But no, I'm just kidding.
We don't like her dog's noise, but we love her too as a human.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
See, you're a nicer person than I am. But I mean, it is, I worry about facts, right? Because in the last couple of years, it doesn't seem they matter as much. And we do deal in facts, right? Our report card is based on a lot of survey and a lot of data that we do. And so that's why I'm asking that question. I'm curious how you're right. You can't legislate humanity. You can't convince somebody of something that they don't want to believe. But I feel like so much of what we have seen happen, like the child tax credit, I mean, that's a tangible benefit, and and we're seeing gas prices go down, right? Like what the various causes for that's happening. So, but still, I think there's just, when you said the thing about perception, that really strikes me, because I feel like there's just so many people that don't want to see those facts or the truth of things. So I'm always curious how you try and argue that with facts, but do you throw in some of the humanity as well? Because we collect stories.
Yeah,
CAA collects stories all the time from people.
I think one of the things the Assemblywoman said that resonates is you center the people closest to the pain, to the policy. So our job is to help. Yeah, we're representatives. We listen to our constituents, and then we have to do the best job we can to advance policy. But one effective way to do that is bringing those voices into the process. And again, Children's Advocacy Alliance does a great job of identifying family members, children, parents, moms, dads, who agree with us on the majority of the policy. The child tax credit, investing more in child care, reducing costs for housing and healthcare, creating more opportunities through job training and workforce. The majority supports those things. Let's be very clear.
Yes.
The issue is, how do we elevate the voices who will benefit from those policies so they feel like there's a stake? And when there is a challenge, when something isn't working, when the unemployment insurance system is overwhelmed, it is incumbent upon elected officials to hold government accountable. I say this all the time. I didn't go to Congress to defend every federal program or every federal agency. That's not my job. My job is to defend my constituents, who are taxpayers, who expect a certain benefit from their government at the local, state, and federal level. And my job a lot of times is to call that agency and say, hey, I have a veteran who hasn't gotten their claim for a year, or I have a senior who is dealing with getting a delayed benefit under Social Security, or a number of families who were not getting the child tax credit in a timely manner and who needed that $300 a month to do the essentials. Like, again, family used that money to do the essential, and it helped the economy.
Yes.
Small businesses
Because you're
benefited.
putting money into that.
Yes.
Yes. No, absolutely.
And so a big part of our job, and that we work closely with the Assemblywoman on this, is constituents will call us, or they'll stop us at the store, or they'll reach out to my staff and they'll say, hey, I heard that the congressman's working on this, or that they just passed this, but I'm having a hard time accessing it. So even if I'm in DC working on a bill, I have staff here who are helping people access services through constituent service, right, and outreach. And that is as big a part of my job as anything. And bringing our constituents into this process. And you've done a great job of this in the legislature as well, because they're the ones who are ultimately going to be the beneficiaries of what we do or not do. I don't spend too much time trying to convince people if they don't want to understand the facts of the matter, whether it's who won the last election, where our kids rank as far as education or health outcomes, and why these investments matter. If I can't show you on data and convince you, then I have to spend my time convincing people who benefit, but who may not be as engaged. Because a lot of times they feel like, well, maybe this isn't for me, or they're not going to really listen to me, or my voice isn't going to really matter. Oh yeah, it matters.
So I think that is I'd love to explore that too, because yeah, this is going to be a 2-day long podcast. I got a lot of questions I got to ask y'all now. This is awesome. So how do we get people more engaged? Because I think that is a thing. You look at elected officials and somehow think that's not me, right? Like I'm not, even though we've seen a lot of people go into politics in the last 10 years of all stripes, it's just like, not everybody understands. And politics is not the word. Electoral process,
Come on.
I think, is the better, because we are all citizens, or trying to be. My husband just became a citizen, so this is all a very big election for him, his first election and everything like that. So it's how do we get involved and feel, I guess the thing is, I think a lot of people feel frustrated, right? Because you see the same headlines every day, you see the same lack of progress in some areas, and yet we are progressing. We are seeing numbers go up or numbers go down if they need to be. So how do you get people more engaged in like what you're talking about, Congressman? How do you get people more engaged in the process itself? And I'll start with you, Assemblywoman, and then go over.
The only thing that I know is to be present, to be engaged myself, and to be accessible, right? And to have a concerted effort to share information. We all have social media, and we try to get stuff out there. We have events in the community, and it's really important that people attend. And if there's an information session going on in the community, we have lots of them in CD4, 86, and in Commission District D. Got that right? Okay. Because I'm nervous and I'm getting my letters all messed up.
Why are you nervous? This is awesome. Y'all are telling me some great stuff.
I always get nervous. But I think it's important that when people see these things advertised, even if that is not something that you may need today, it's information that you can share with your family or your neighbor or your coworker, right? Commissioner McCurdy had a housing, and the Congressman had a housing event at Pearson Community Center that I went to a couple weeks ago. There were organizations all throughout the Valley that help, from veterans, for children. Every stripe was there in a room with folks that you could talk to, get information from. It is critical that we participate, because this is where the help is, and they're putting these things together. We need to attend them so that we can know. I took information from that, and I've got a bag of stuff, and my comms person and I, my friend really, is going to help me put some things out on social media in small pieces to share with people so that they can see what is available for them, right? This is how we help people. This politics, policy, and the electoral process is difficult. It is often ugly. It is frustrating. but I'm just going to speak from my own my personal experience as a Black woman in this community, in this country. My folks have had to learn over the centuries that there is nothing that we need to get done that is an overnight sensation. Microwave has never been how it has worked for us. My parents cooked, right? So we understood the process of that. You have to put all the ingredients together and you have to tend it. The electoral process is not something that is a one and done. We have to tend this, every single process and all in between, because when we're out here fighting for the things that we know will help us, there are people on the other side who are consistently fighting to scratch back and pull back on any policy that will cut into their profit, that will cut into their power, that will cut into their influence, but that is damaging to us. We have to be consistent all the time, fighting and recognizing that this is just going to be consistent work. This is crib to grave. We're going to have to do this work.
That's right. And it was so funny, as the Assemblywoman referenced the Housing Resource Fair. So, we do these events, we do them in partnership. This is not something any one of us can do alone. Each of us has a role. Mine is a federal one, but we have the county, Commissioner McCurdy, and the city council, and the school district, obviously the state legislature. And the state legislature is a citizens legislature, so they're not in year-round. They don't have dedicated staff to work with people year-round, even though they get called year-round.
All the time.
The job is technically every other year. And so that is why we have to work in partnership. But when I saw the Assemblywoman there, she's there getting information to be an effective legislator and a representative of the community by seeing the resources and being able to share them. And I commend you on that. There was another lady who was there. I went around to talk to constituents and I said, well, are you here for assistance? She goes, no, I just want to know what's available so if I ever need it, I know where I should go. Mm-hmm. And then I had a lady who was there who didn't say a word. I come up to her and she's like, she wanted to talk about her business that she was starting. And I said, well, okay, I'm happy to talk to you about your business. Actually, we're working on starting a micro business center, and there's going to be more resources for small businesses. I said, well, what brought you to the resource fair? She goes, well, I don't want, I'm a little embarrassed, but I have an eviction notice. I said, well, wait, that's what we're here for today. I need to keep you in your house today. So with the support of Ruby from my staff, we connected her to the CHAPS program that was on site so that she could get the assistance that's available based on her eligibility so she would not be unhoused. So it's those moments. It's from the legislator who is there to make sure that they're getting the information to spread it, to the constituent who doesn't need the help, but wants to be aware of where the resources are so that she can be a help to others, to the woman who needs help, but didn't know how best to ask for it. So that to me is just so instructive of why this work is important, because you never know who you're going to be.
Where somebody is and what
Yes.
they might need. So I think that's a perfect point for us to say, we'll put it up on the screen, but your websites so that where people can go to get more information about upcoming events. So Assemblywoman, what's your website?
It is Shondra-Armstrong.org.
Okay, and Congressman?
My official website is horsford.house.gov. And we have all of the resources, some of which we talked about here today on that website where people can go to. And they can sign up for my newsletter to get regular updates about the work that we're doing on their behalf in Washington.
And
Mine as well.
And you're both on social media.
Yes, I'm not great, but I try.
Your smile there, you're like,
No TikTok, though. I'm not doing TikTok.
Come on.
No.
Oh,
I'm
I
not
want to
doing
see
it.
that.
My 20-year-old son, who's, I told you, is a student in college, he said, Mom, don't do that. Don't embarrass me. So no TikTok.
You, Congressman?
We have @Rep Horsford is our official Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. We now do have a TikTok page. It's not. I didn't support the idea.
Okay,
Daughter
we're
also
definitely putting
discouraged.
that on the screen now. Oh my
We got to
gosh.
engage the young people, apparently. But whatever gets put on there has to be screened by the young faction of our
Okay,
office to make
fair.
sure it's relatable to the the we're trying to
Okay,
reach.
the cool factor.
And
Yes.
don't put something on there that I'm going to embarrass myself with.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. Okay, so I don't even know where to go with our podcast after that. That just kind of did it for me. I do want to ask, so as we go into the legislature next year in February, what are your priorities for that? And I want to ask you what's next for you, what's coming up for you as well, too. So somebody want to?
Well, a lot of what we discussed today, I think top of mind for me, because this is critical, is housing. I'm really working, talking to everybody, getting shot down sometimes, but still working on trying to find some permanent options for permanent funding for housing, affordable housing, whether that is new build, people buying houses for the first time, apartments, senior living, the whole gamut, even supportive housing. So I'm really trying to be in that space. It's very critical in our neighborhood. The second thing would be access to healthcare. I carried a bill last session that for the first time in our state's history, our Medicare will fund doula services. They are health assistants for maternal care. The data has shown that when women, especially Black women, have a doula, their rates of complications during childbirth go down about 4 times. And so we really, really want more access to healthcare, mental health, primary care. We just want a healthier community. And how the last thing would be criminal justice reform and how that feeds into our prison pipeline and the things that we can do, like reducing fees and fines to get folks not caught up, decriminalizing jaywalking, which we did at our last session, just those kinds of things that just help our communities function without fear and with a sense of hope.
Awesome. And you, Congressman?
Well, my focus is what the constituents of District 4 have talked to me about, which right now is reducing cost, making our community safer, and creating better paying jobs so that there are opportunities for everyone. I'm proud to have helped pass the Inflation Reduction Act, which was just signed into law by the president and includes historic investment in climate change that's going to help benefit Nevada. It creates more than 9 million jobs over the next 8 years in the climate economy, and Nevada's poised to do a lot of that work because of the legislature's efforts to make us renewable independent and energy independent by 2050, particularly around solar, geothermal, and hydrogen. And those are jobs that all of us, regardless of background, community, education, can participate in. And again, with workforce development and training, we need to make sure that every community gets connected to those resources. Also in the bill was the lowering prescription drug costs so that Medicare can finally, after more than 40 years under Medicare Part D, be able to negotiate for lower cost prescription drugs. I had a provision in there that caps out-of-pocket costs for seniors at $2,000 annually. And that caps the cost of insulin for Medicare beneficiaries at $35. A lot of our seniors raise children in our community. They're kinship care, they're standing in for family members. So when we help that segment of the family or our community, it does help the rest of our community. And then finally is reducing or making our communities safer. Like I said at the beginning, we have to be honest. There have been higher incidents of crime rates as the economy has shifted and more people have become unstable in their workplace, and just the economic anxiety that some people face. Now, I understand the need for public safety, and it's why I've worked to both fund local law enforcement and support accountability measures. But it's not only about what local law enforcement does, it's what are we doing as a community to help reduce crime, save lives, and break the cycle of violence. So when I go back to Congress the beginning of September, we will be working on a number of those bills throughout the remainder of this year. But whatever I do, it will be centered on the needs of the people of this district, because I'm never going to forget where I come from, the experiences I had growing up, the fact that someone gave me an opportunity to even be the person that I am, let alone to serve. And I won't forget the people that I'm fighting for, or what it is I'm fighting for. And it's all the issues that we covered here today that help improve the lives of children, that make our communities stronger, and that create opportunity for everybody. Because that's ultimately why I'm in this work. If I can't do that, then I would choose a different career at that point.
Wow. This has just been so awesome. I really, really appreciate both your time, Assemblywoman Summers-Armstrong and Congressman Horsford. This has just been so great. I hope you both come back at some point and talk to us again. It just really, there was so much we didn't even get to. I was like, I had more notes, and then as you both talked, I was like, no, I want to talk about that too, but I have to let you all go at some point. So
Thank you.
I will choose to do that now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both so much. Thank you so much for joining us for this Children's Advocacy Alliance podcast, and we will see you next time.